something's not right about 3I Atlas. In late July 2025, flagship space telescopes like Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope captured extraordinary data on this rare interstellar comet. Then, just as its coma ballooned past 300,000 kilometers and reports emerged of a green tinge and strange brightening, the official updates went silent. NASA blamed solar geometry and safety rules. But the abrupt lull stands out when Oumuamua and Borisov sparked flurries of rapid-fire releases. This information vacuum isn't just fueling wild theories. Missing timely answers could undermine public trust in how astronomical discoveries are revealed. So what's the real reason for the blackout? And what are we not being told about 3I Atlas? On July 21, 2025, the Hubble Space Telescope locked onto 3I Slatus and captured the sharpest images yet of this interstellar visitor. 2.5 weeks later, on August 7th, those images went public, showing a nucleus no larger than 5.6 kilometers across and a sprawling dust plume stretching sunward. By August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope had taken its turn, using the NIR SPEC instrument to gather spectra. But for Webb, only technical notes and preliminary comments reached the public. No headline images, just hints that analysis was underway. Gemini South joined in on August 27th, capturing images that confirmed the comet's activity and tail evolution. Those data appeared in the public archive by September 4th and 5th, giving researchers and amateur astronomers another look at the growing coma and shifting dust features. Each release landed with a burst of online discussion, but the intervals between them started to widen. After September 22nd, the cadence changed. No new flagship images, no fresh datasets from Hubble, JWST, or Gemini. The flow of official updates slowed to a crawl. For anyone tracking the comet's progress, the absence was impossible to miss. The public timeline, once marked by steady releases, now showed a growing gap. The question wasn't just about what had been seen, but why nothing more was coming. Observing 3I Atlas with Hubble, or JWST, isn't just a matter of pointing and shooting. Both telescopes are governed by strict solar avoidance rules, technical boundaries set to protect their sensitive optics and detectors from stray sunlight. For Hubble, the rule is clear: no observations within 50 degrees of the sun. JWST, with its massive sun shield and delicate infrared sensors, is even stricter, enforcing an 85-degree minimum separation. These angles aren't negotiable, they're baked into the system software. If a target drifts too close to the sun's position in the sky, the software locks out any attempt to schedule or execute an observation. The risk isn't just theoretical. Direct sunlight could overheat the instruments, permanently damage detectors, or even threaten the entire mission. As 3I Atlas moved along its path, its solar elongation, the angle between the comet, Earth and the Sun, shrank day by day. By late August, it slipped past Hubble's 50-degree limit, and just after JWST's August 6th NIR SPEC run, the comet crossed JWST's 85-degree threshold. At that point, both telescopes entered an enforced blackout. The science teams at the Space Telescope Science Institute, who manage scheduling and operations, had no choice but to stand down. The keep-out zones are hardwired into the mission planning tools. Attempts to override them would trigger automatic safing protocols and could halt all science operations until a full review. This isn't about bureaucratic caution, these are hard physical limits. Even urgent target of opportunity requests can't bypass the keep-out zones. The only option is to wait for the geometry to change. For 3I Atlas, that means no new flagship images or spectra until the comet's elongation increases again, which orbital calculations predict will happen in early December. Until then, the blackout holds and the flagship observatories remain silent. Not by choice, but by design. Hints about 3I Atlas's true nature began to surface as soon as the first science data trickled out. Hubble's July images revealed not just a dust tail, but a sprawling coma, an envelope of gas and dust stretching nearly 348,000 kilometers across. That's more than a quarter of the sun's diameter and far larger than most comets at this distance. The most intriguing detail came from early spectroscopic notes. astronomers started whispering about an unusually strong carbon dioxide signal in the coma. Now, it's important to say that as of late September 2025, no one has published a peer-reviewed quantitative spectrum confirming carbon dioxide dominance. But the hints are there, and the science teams haven't denied it. For a comet entering the inner solar system for the first time, that would be a major chemical clue. Most local comets are water-dominated at this range. Carbon dioxide typically sublimates at much greater distances from the Sun, making its persistence unusual and scientifically significant. Alongside the official releases, amateur astronomers kept pace with their own observations. Several reported seeing a distinct greenish tint in the coma, likely from dicarbon or cyanogen, classic signatures in cometary chemistry, but with a twist. Some observers noted the green was brighter and more persistent than in typical comets. Though without full spectral data, it's hard to pin down the cause. The Sunward plume, first caught by Hubble and then Gemini, also became a talking point. Its shape and brightness seemed to shift from night to night, sparking debate about whether surface outbursts or viewing geometry were to blame. Photometry, measuring the comet's brightness, added another layer of confusion. Amateur and professional measurements scattered widely, sometimes differing by more than a full magnitude. Some of that is down to equipment and calibration, but part of it may reflect real, rapid changes in the coma or nucleus. With flagship observatories offline, the scatter in these ground-based reports became the main window into 3i Atlas's activity. For now, the best available facts point to a comet with an outsized coma, a possible carbon dioxide-rich composition, a sunward plume, and a color profile that refuses to settle. In the absence of new flagship data, each oddity becomes a seed for speculation and a reminder of just how much we're relying on the trickle of amateur and ground-based science. By late September, the silence around 3i Atlas wasn't just technical. It started to feel personal for the people watching from the ground. Social media threads filled with frustration and speculation. One amateur astronomer wrote, "It's like chasing a ghost. Every night we're guessing what's actually happening out there." Another asked, "Why can't we just see the raw data? What are they waiting for?" The truth is, the pipeline from telescope to public release is anything but instant. Every observation from Hubble or JWST enters a kind of limbo. Once the data are downlinked, they go through calibration, removal of cosmic rays, correction for detector quirks, and background subtraction. For JWST, the process is even more involved. Each NIR spec spectrum passes through multiple software stages, with instrument teams checking for artifacts or calibration errors. A single misstep can mean claiming a chemical signature that isn't real, a mistake that could ripple through the scientific community and the press. Beyond the technical hurdles, there's policy. Both Hubble and JWST operate under proprietary periods, 6 months for most Hubble programs, up to a year for JWST. The principal investigators, or PIs, get first crack at the data, a tradition meant to reward those who designed and won the observing proposals. While some PIs choose to release data early, many wait until their teams have analyzed and cross-checked every pixel. That's especially true for targets as high-profile as 3i Atlas, where a premature claim could have massive implications. Institutional routines add more layers. Every press release or headline image passes through multiple agencies, NASA, ESA, and sometimes CSA for JWST. Each group reviews the findings, checks for legal and contractual issues, and coordinates on timing. Even a non-controversial dataset can sit for weeks in this review loop, waiting for sign-off from project scientists and communications leads. For 3i Atlas, the process slowed further as teams weighed the risks of releasing incomplete or ambiguous results. As one JWST co-investigator put it, "It's better to be right late than wrong fast. With interstellar targets, there's no second chance." All this means that while the public and citizen scientists are hungry for updates, the official channels move at their own pace. The sense of waiting, of staring at the same old images while rumors swirl, is built into the system. For many in the community, the vacuum feels like a wall. For the mission schedulers and data analysts, it's a wall built for caution, not secrecy. But the longer the silence stretches, the more it shapes the conversation, turning procedural delays into fuel for speculation and routine caution into a source of unease. Rumors about 3i Atlas started multiplying as soon as the flagship telescopes went silent. Some threads pinned the blackout on classified sensors, suggesting that military or intelligence satellites had snapped images the public would never see. Others leaned into panic prevention, the idea that agencies were managing the story, holding back data to avoid alarming headlines about an interstellar anomaly. There's even a camp that claims the data are simply too strange to release quickly, that scientists are scrambling behind the scenes to make sense of something that doesn't fit the usual playbook. The media landscape only adds fuel. Stories about comets like Leonard or Swan Bright, easy to spot and photogenic, climb social media charts and headline lists. Their visibility makes them algorithm gold. What you can see tonight always wins clicks. In contrast, 3i Atlas, with its patchy updates and technical hurdles, fades from the trending lists. When there's nothing new to show, the vacuum fills with speculation. After the Gemini South images dropped in early September, social media engagement for 3i Atlas spiked to levels 10 times higher than typical comets, then drifted toward conspiracy hashtags as the data gap stretched on. But the reality behind the scenes is less dramatic and far more methodical. Every observation from Hubble or JWST enters a multi-stage pipeline before anyone outside the instrument team gets a look. First, the raw data are downlinked and tagged with spacecraft telemetry. Then calibration routines kick in. Cosmic rays are scrubbed, detector quirks corrected, background subtracted. For JWST, this means passing through at least 3 main stages: detector-level corrections, instrument calibration, and advanced processing like co-addition and artifact rejection. Each stage is checked for errors, flagged for anomalies, and sometimes rerun if anything looks off. Once the data reach a science-ready state, the principal investigators review them, often under a proprietary period, 6 months for Hubble, up to a year for JWST. Only after the PI and team are confident in the results do they move to the next gate, agency review. NASA, ESA, and sometimes CSA all weigh in, checking for legal, contractual, and scientific issues. Press officers coordinate the timing of releases, sometimes waiting weeks for everyone to sign off. If the data are ambiguous or hint at something unexpected, the process slows even further. A premature claim, especially for a high-profile target like 3i Atlas, risks a public correction or even a retraction. The contrast with earlier interstellar visitors is sharp. When Oumuamua was discovered in 2017, the data poured out almost in real time. Preprints, open debate, and wild speculation all hit the internet within days. The scientific community embraced transparency, sharing observations and theories as they developed. Borisov, 2 years later, followed a steady textbook cadence. Images and spectra released on schedule with little drama. The comet behaved predictably and the data flow matched expectations. For 3i Atlas, the combination of technical hurdles, cautious review, and multi-agency sign-off has created a slow, uneven flow. The result is a perfect storm for rumor and frustration. But beneath the noise, the pipeline is grinding forward, stage by stage. Each step is designed to catch mistakes before they reach the public. For the engineers and analysts inside the process, it's not about secrecy or story control. It's about getting the science right, even if that means waiting longer than anyone would like. The difference lies partly in the nature of the objects themselves. Oumuamua was a fast-moving anomaly that demanded immediate attention and rapid analysis. Its unusual acceleration and elongated shape made it a target for urgent study before it disappeared forever. Borisov was clearly a comet from the start, fitting established models and behaving predictably. The science was straightforward, and the release schedule could follow normal protocols. 3i Atlas sits somewhere between these extremes. It's clearly a comet, but one with unusual properties that don't fit neat categories. The carbon dioxide dominance, oversized coma, and brightness variations demand careful analysis. Rushing to conclusions could lead to embarrassing retractions or missed opportunities for deeper understanding. The Mars flyby on October 3rd represents the next big opportunity for new data on 3I Atlas. At its closest approach, the comet will pass just 0.19 astronomical units from Mars, about 28 million kilometers. That's close in cosmic terms, but still far beyond the reach of any high-resolution imaging. The ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, or TGO, carries the Cassis camera, which is often cited for its sharp 5 meter per pixel images of the Martian surface. But at this distance, Cassis faces hard physical limits. In the best-case scenario, each pixel covers more than 300 kilometers. The nucleus of 3I Atlas, somewhere between 320 meters and 5.6 kilometers across, will be a single, unresolved dot. No detail, no shape, just a faint point of light against the background stars. HiRISE on Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, with its larger aperture, can do a bit better, down to about 34 kilometers per pixel. But that's still orders of magnitude too coarse to pick out the nucleus or any structure in the coma or tail. These cameras were built for mapping Mars at close range, not for deep space targets moving across the sky. Tracking a comet at interplanetary speeds isn't in their playbook. Exposure times have to be short to avoid smearing, and the signal-to-noise ratio drops fast as the comet fades into the distance. So what can Mars orbiters actually deliver? Photometry, a measurement of the comet's brightness at a moment when Earth-based telescopes and the flagship observatories are sidelined by solar geometry. A point source detection from Mars orbit is valuable for tracking the comet's position and activity, especially if there's any sudden outburst or brightness change during the flyby. The data pipeline is fast. TGO and Mars Express can downlink and process these observations within a day or two, barring any technical hiccups. But for anyone expecting a dramatic close-up, it's important to set expectations now. The Mars flyby is about timing, not detail. The real value lies in coverage during a window when every other eye is forced to look away. Perihelion for 3I Atlas arrives on October 29th or 30th, with the comet passing about 1.36 astronomical units from the Sun. At that distance, it's not a classic sun grazer, but the rapid heating and high velocity still put the nucleus under real stress. So what should you watch for as the comet swings through solar passage and re-emerges in December? First, keep an eye on the light curve. Sudden jumps in brightness, especially sharp, short-lived spikes, can signal surface fragmentation or outbursts. But a smooth rise and fall following the expected curve as the comet nears and then recedes from the Sun points to steady, volatile release rather than breakup. Remember, a single brightness jump isn't proof of fragmentation. You want to see a pattern, ideally confirmed by multiple observers using different instruments and techniques. Next, look for changes in the anti-tail, the sunward pointing spike seen in wide-field images. As Earth's position shifts relative to the comet's orbital plane, the anti-tail can flip or fade. For 3I Atlas, anti-tail prominence should peak close to perihelion, then rapidly diminish as the geometry changes into December. Tracking its orientation across images is a powerful tool for confirming orbital details and dust behavior. The anti-tail's evolution tells a story about particle sizes, ejection velocities, and the comet's interaction with solar radiation pressure. Color matters too. If the greenish hue reported by amateurs disappears or shifts after perihelion, that could mean the loss of certain molecules as surface ices are depleted or fresh material is exposed. But only spectra can confirm what's really changing. Images alone can mislead. The coma size is another critical indicator. If 3I Atlas survives perihelion intact, its coma should begin to shrink as it moves away from the Sun and volatile production decreases. A coma that continues to expand or maintains its size could indicate ongoing fragmentation or an unusually volatile rich composition. In December, as the comet's elongation increases and flagship telescopes regain access, expect a new wave of high-resolution imaging and spectroscopy. This will be the first opportunity since early September to get definitive answers about 3I Atlas's composition and behavior. The JWST observations will be particularly crucial. Its infrared capabilities can detect molecular signatures that visible light telescopes miss entirely. If the carbon dioxide dominance hinted at in early observations is real, JWST should be able to confirm it definitively and provide quantitative measurements. Hubble's sharp imaging will reveal whether the nucleus has fragmented during its solar passage or remained intact. The telescope's ability to track small debris and measure the dust production rate will help determine the comet's structural integrity and future evolution. Ground-based observatories will also play a crucial role. Large telescopes like the Very Large Telescope and Keck Observatory can provide continuous monitoring and rapid response observations if the comet shows any unexpected behavior. Looking ahead to 2026, a favorable Jupiter geometry could offer another window for study. If 3I Atlas survives its solar encounter, the gravitational influence of Jupiter might alter the comet's trajectory slightly, potentially providing different viewing angles and extended observation opportunities. But survival isn't guaranteed. Interstellar comets face unique stresses. They've spent millions of years in the cold of interstellar space, potentially making their nuclei more fragile than solar system natives. The rapid heating during perihelion passage could cause catastrophic fragmentation. If 3I Atlas does break apart, the debris field itself becomes scientifically valuable. Studying the fragments can reveal the comet's internal structure and composition in ways that an intact nucleus never could. Each piece tells part of the story about conditions in its birth system and its journey through interstellar space. The 3I case reveals deep tensions in how modern astronomy balances scientific rigor with public transparency. The traditional model, careful analysis followed by peer review and controlled release, works well for routine discoveries, but struggles with high-profile, time-sensitive targets that capture public imagination. Social media and citizen science have changed the landscape. Amateur astronomers with sophisticated equipment can generate data almost as quickly as professionals. Their observations and analyses spread instantly online, creating parallel information streams that sometimes conflict with official channels. The result is a two-tier system: rapid, informal updates from the amateur community alongside slower, more cautious releases from institutions. When the official channels go silent, the amateur observations don't just fill the gap, they become the primary source of information, complete with all their uncertainties and potential errors. This dynamic isn't necessarily bad, but it requires new approaches to communication and data sharing. The astronomical community needs to find ways to maintain scientific standards while meeting public expectations for timely updates. One potential solution is more transparent preliminary releases. Instead of waiting months for fully processed data, institutions could share calibrated but unanalyzed observations with clear caveats about their preliminary nature. This would satisfy public curiosity while maintaining the scientific process for final results. Another approach is better integration with the amateur community. Professional observatories could establish formal partnerships with skilled amateur observers, providing guidance on observing techniques and data validation while acknowledging their contributions in official releases. The 3I Atlas experience also highlights the importance of managing expectations. The public's fascination with interstellar visitors is understandable, but it creates pressure for dramatic discoveries and immediate answers. Educational efforts that explain the scientific process and its necessary timescales could help reduce frustration during data gaps. The 3I Atlas situation reveals another layer of complexity that often goes unnoticed by the public: the international politics of space data. Unlike purely American missions, both Hubble and JWST operate as international collaborations, with ESA, European Space Agency, holding significant stakes in observations and data rights. When JWST captured its NIR spec data on August 6th, the information didn't just flow through NASA's pipeline. ESA scientists, as partners in the mission, also received copies for independent analysis. This creates multiple parallel tracks of investigation, each with its own timeline and approval process. The situation becomes even more complex when you consider that several European ground-based observatories, including the Very Large Telescope in Chile and the Gran Telescopio Canarias, have been quietly collecting their own data on 3i Atlas throughout the blackout period. These observations, funded by national agencies and operated under different disclosure policies, follow their own release schedules. China's space program adds another dimension. The Chinese Academy of Sciences has been tracking 3i Atlas through their own network of observatories. But their data sharing agreements with Western institutions are limited. Some observers have noted Chinese astronomical papers mentioning the comet in technical contexts, but these publications often take months to reach international journals and may not be fully translated. Russia, despite ongoing geopolitical tensions, maintains collaborative relationships in astronomy through the International Astronomical Union. Russian observatories have captured images of 3i Atlas, but the data flows through different institutional channels that may not align with NASA's communication strategies. This fragmented international landscape means that the silence around 3i Atlas may be more apparent than real. While flagship American telescopes remain offline due to solar constraints, the global astronomical community continues to observe and analyze. The challenge lies in coordinating releases and ensuring consistent messaging across different agencies, countries, and institutions. The 3i case suggests that the future of astronomy will be increasingly collaborative, with amateurs and professionals working as partners rather than separately. Professional institutions are beginning to develop formal frameworks for integrating citizen science observations, providing quality control while acknowledging valuable contributions. Some observatories now maintain rapid response networks that can alert amateur observers to interesting phenomena and coordinate follow-up observations. This hybrid approach combines the precision and reliability of professional equipment with the flexibility and continuous coverage that only a distributed amateur network can provide. The real innovation may be in data sharing and analysis platforms that allow seamless integration of professional and amateur observations. Several projects are developing systems that can automatically calibrate and cross-check observations from different sources, creating unified data sets that are more powerful than either professional or amateur observations alone. For 3i Atlas, this collaboration has proven essential. While we wait for the flagship observatories to regain access in December, the amateur community continues to monitor and document the comet's evolution. Their data will provide crucial context for interpreting whatever the big telescopes reveal when they come back online. Until then, the 3i Atlas case shows how institutional caution and technical limitations can shape what the world sees and doesn't see about the rarest visitors to our solar system. The story isn't over. It's just about to turn another page. The real question isn't whether there's a conspiracy or cover-up. The real question is whether the current system serves the dual goals of scientific accuracy and public engagement effectively. 3i Atlas, with its unusual properties and inconvenient timing, has tested that system and found it wanting in some ways. But science is self-correcting. The lessons learned from this experience will inform how future discoveries are handled. The next interstellar visitor, and there will be others, may benefit from new protocols that balance rigor with transparency, satisfying both the scientific community's need for accuracy and the public's hunger for knowledge about these cosmic wanderers from distant stars. The silence around 3i Atlas isn't sinister, it's systematic. Understanding that system, with all its strengths and weaknesses, is the first step toward improving it. The comet itself will provide the answers we're seeking. The process of getting those answers teaches us just as much about ourselves and how we explore the universe together.